when that dings. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being here, and I hope that you had a wonderful time off. Just want to run through a few things as we're all coming off of a bit of a break, and we'll get back into it. Whoops, if I can. So, reminder, what are we doing here? We are here to define the paradigm shift that would be required to employ artificial intelligence across field, lab, modeling, and analysis activities. Remember, we're looking for non-incremental advancements. We're looking for the future. What do we do to harness our data, employ, amazing techniques at the right times, at the right points? We're looking for you to help us figure out where those are. How can we harness the computing resources, and looking at the domain-specific machine learning applications. And that's getting at where is the best places to use AI, including machine learning and other techniques. So we're trying to bring together the community of interest around AI4ESP to inform EESSD's and Oscar's future strategic plans. So please bring your best ideas, and thank you for participating. This is our session list. There are 17. We have over 700 confirmed participants that are representing over 180 institutions so far. That number is still growing, believe it or not. And I want to thank you all for sharing the word and inviting your friends and others that are, extremely valuable to this conversation and where the future will go. So just a reminder, we are convening workshops and meetings that are welcoming, respectful, inclusive, and collaborative. And a couple of my changes did not get in here, so I apologize for that. However, please respect others, respect the ideas, continue to focus on the problem at hand and what we're discussing. Bring the positives, negatives, pluses and minuses related to those and discuss them, and keep things professional. It's greatly appreciated. If there are issues, please bring them up. We want this to be a professional and safe environment for everybody. We want you to be honest. We want you to be respectful of all results, be they positive, negative, and focus on the problem. If there's an issue, please, it's a virtual environment, but go ahead and stop work. If you see something going wrong that you need to call 911 for, please don't hesitate. Let's help each other and keep our safety and work seriously, but also think about the people involved that are in it. If you need to report any conduct concerns, please reach out to any of us on the bottom here. You can reach out on Slack, you can call us, text us, whatever you need, but we want to know if there's something going on that shouldn't be. So welcome back to AI4ESP. I'm going to quit sharing now and we will get down to business. All right, I think I'm done sharing there. Next up, we're going to do readouts from the previous sessions. So I believe we have Forrest first. Are you ready, Forrest?
You're muted, Forrest.
Okay, I'm ready. Let me see if I can share the screen here.
Welcome back. Thank you.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Ecohydrology session. We had a good session back on Monday, November 9th, if people remember that far back before the holidays. And we just started off by reminding everybody of our Slack workspace area and a Google Drive folder. We ran from 12:45 to 2:45 in the afternoon Eastern time. We had an introduction. We had 5 invited 5 to 6 minute presentations, which went really well and informed us about a lot of things that are going on with applications of machine learning in this ecohydrology space. Then we reviewed the breakout rooms and went off to 7 breakout rooms, and they were fairly well attended. Let me jump down to those. And they were sort of topically focused. So even though the discussion was general, if there were things that were specific to the topics, we had identified those by room. We started off before that with a couple of very simple polls about what are the processes or Earth system components that come to mind when you think of ecohydrology. And so we have this information included in the report. Interestingly, somebody thought of Voldemort when they hear ecohydrology, which isn't something that would have come to my mind. And then we asked, how do you use AI or machine learning in your research? And some people were concerned because they wanted to mark all of these, but we had a fairly good distribution between data synthesis, model emulators, and data model analytics. Okay, so we've had maybe 3 or 4 meetings since that session to discuss what goes in the report for our ecohydrology work and really thinking about those grand challenges. So these, are not, big, broad grand challenges. These are kind of specific to ecohydrology and specifically for areas where we think machine learning could make a big difference. So in developing spatial temporal trends, linking below ground plant and microbial characteristics with soil properties and processes, we don't understand all of those processes and interactions. So we think that we could apply machine learning here to understand and predict changes in plant productivity and soil carbon persistence in response to a changing climate. Developing multi-scale representations of land processes that incorporate the heterogeneous patterns of water stores and fluxes, vegetation patterns, physiological function, and biogeochemical cycling, not all of which we understand, nor exactly how they interact with each other, to help us do a better job of predicting responses to climate extremes, particularly water cycle extremes. And developing models of climate extremes, pulse and press stresses, and ecophysiological responses to understand and predict ecosystem disturbances and their rates of recovery. And then finally, applying machine learning in more of a, practical approach for functional model benchmarking to constrain model complexity. Do we really need this level of complexity to understand and predict for this component of the system, and to quantify the magnitude and sources of model and data uncertainty? So those are kind of our grand challenges. We sort of went through this state of science previously, so I'm going to jump over that so that I don't go over time here and talk about the experimental data and modeling opportunities that exist for advancing the use of AI. And one of those things that really seems to be coming out of a lot of these sessions is the need to produce benchmark data sets or AI-ready data. And this will help us engage our math and computer science community, as well as bring other scientists in to help us investigate various techniques for harvesting information out of these data sets. Fusing data from multiple sensors and platforms, from in situ measurements, remote sensing observations, and model data, to acquire more below ground data. So we still can't give up on acquiring that data. We need all of these data that we don't have in order to really make this venture successful. And species specific plant data as well. Increase the modularity of models themselves. So how the models are developed and documented to provide a systematic interface between machine learning components and process-based components. So that's going to require some software engineering type activities. We really also wanted to talk about facilities and infrastructure because we see a need for an integrated computing and data infrastructure to help us across the DOE enterprise for finding, accessing, visualizing, and creating this AI-ready data for lots of scientists to use. And we've even discussed the potential need for a dedicated center to bring together AI, machine learning, and Earth system scientists and computer scientists and researchers and transdisciplinary teams to collaborate on addressing the grand challenges from slide 1 and training that next generation scientific workforce. So training and really, helping to focus the careers of early career scientists to have the capabilities and skills to do this kind of AI machine learning along with their earth science is, I think, important. And then what research needs to be conducted at next steps. So to really address these grand challenges, we think we need to go ahead and build some initial AI-ready benchmark data sets for testing various techniques and engage with Oscar-funded colleagues who may be able to help us there. Develop machine learning-based model parameterizations, emulators, and surrogates for processes in which sufficient data are available. So I think this is an area that's ripe for development right now. Developing a software framework for swapping machine learning-based and process-based parameterizations in and out of models. That, I think, is a great opportunity and a great potential collaboration. Use historical data models and AI and machine learning to constrain future disturbance ecology interactions. So have we really gone through the historical data sets and satellite data and on-the-ground observations to help draw the relationships between extreme events and those ecosystem disturbances? Investigate feasibility of deploying integrated data and compute infrastructure in a center for AI, machine learning, and Earth System Predictability science. So that we think that's something that could be investigated now. So for our goals, initial hybrid machine learning based process-based land surface model could be one in the near term. Let's develop that framework and get it in. An initial collection of AI-ready benchmark data sets, initial ML implementations to address scaling challenges that we see in this area from microbes and stomates up to the globe, right? That's a lot of scale jumping in there. And we think machine learning will make a big difference. Midterm goals are machine learning for generalizing data relationships to generate new data for models. So bringing together that sort of data fusion item we talked about earlier. And then general purpose AI and machine learning approaches for producing optimal equations from unrepresented processes that are in the model. So can we have the machine learning actually figure out what the differential equations are that describe that process for us? And then long-term AI machine learning framework that identifies when and where to collect data, what the processes are that are needed to be represented in the models, and how to manage and analyze the data. Accurate and efficient science-guided AI machine learning to forecast disturbances and predict post-disturbance responses and feedbacks of ecohydrology processes, especially underwater cycle extremes. So that's ecohydrology. Did I miss anything?
I don't know if you missed anything, but thank you. That was very good.
Sure.
All right. Nathan, are you ready to go?
Yeah, let me get the screen up.
All right, I can see it.
Okay, good. All right, so our session was surrogate models and emulators, also a few weeks ago. So we organized the session under a few key topics. One was data challenges, such as, what do you do with very high dimensional data where you have, excuse me, very few samples out of a model. And the data itself is very, multi-scale and non-stationary and so on. Uncertainty quantification, since this is a common application of surrogate models and emulators. And how do you use them for not just parametric uncertainty, but model form or multi-model uncertainty and other applications of UQ, prediction, sensitivity analysis. Another one was actionable emulators. So what is it that makes an emulator useful or fit for purpose? How do you deal with the differences between the surrogate and the real world? Information fusion or synthesis of data, decision and stakeholder relevance. And then we had kind of two cross-cutting themes within our session, which is on methods for surrogate models like neural networks or Gaussian processes, physics informed, and so on. And then high performance computing and computational challenges. So grand challenges we identified, several. The first few I've kind of lumped under my own term that I made up, which is translational science, which is kind of how to use surrogates to take things that are coming out of computer models and use them for other purposes like, predictive uncertainty quantification. So some of the challenges include how do you get interpretable and trustful predictions out of models with built-in uncertainty quantification that are accurate on multiple timescales and multiple spatial scales, including extreme rare events. Another one is how do you prepare the data for machine learning? That's a whole can of worms in itself. How do you understand the uncertainty in the data, which is not necessarily just the models, but it could be observational products, lower its uncertainty, and especially effectively combine different data, because we don't necessarily want to make a surrogate of like one computer model. We want to make a surrogate of the real world, and that might include multiple information sources. And finally, a more unified framework that provides a consistent treatment of uncertainties where we're kind of treating different pieces of the system in different ways from a surrogate and uncertainty perspective, and they don't necessarily feed into each other well. In addition, we identified challenges around communication between different groups, machine learning people, domain scientists, applied mathematicians and statisticians, which is a real challenge in developing appropriate methods, which leads into the next point. What are the appropriate choices of machine learning methods? How do you know when a certain surrogate method is going to be appropriate? How do you make things generalizable and reproducible as opposed to kind of one-off custom surrogate models? How do we understand the surrogates physically, what they're doing, and impose physical constraints on them? And also getting the right data in the right place, such as cloud computing. So if I want to build surrogates of like all of CMIP, I can't download all of CMIP. I need to do fairly sophisticated analysis where the data lives. So state of science, surrogates are often used, in the DOE as surrogates for computationally expensive models. But there are also applications of emulators to emulate specific processes or reduce parts of the dynamics of the system for scientific understanding and or model improvement. There are generative models of synthetic data for impacts and predictability studies. Give me a bunch of scenarios. Reduce models for integrated assessment or multi-sector dynamics. There's applications for model data fusion or multimodal, multimodal synthesis, downscaling and bias correction, all involve kind of statistical models, reduced models. There are also surrogates for observing system, not just computer models and simulators of observing systems, and surrogates even potentially for computational workflows or pipelines where we're coupling models together and there's a flow of information. The experimental opportunities we identified is, obviously collecting better field data in data poor regions where machine learning is not expected to do well. But also, there was some robust discussion around optimal experimental design and using surrogate methods to kind of investigate in a simulated way where to place instruments or what data to collect, potentially in real time. Data opportunities, there's FAIR repository and ML performance benchmarks. We'll come back to this, but one thing is like, how do you actually compare different emulator methods to each other? Not often done. Data cleaning, processing, quality control, and also more effort on combining multiple sources of data, observations, simulations, and synthetic data. Modeling opportunities is hierarchy of models that's domain aware, and the surrogates represent their own domains appropriately within the hierarchy. Scale aware and scale bridging surrogates that are physics informed, and UQ in emulators. And so the emulators themselves have uncertainties in how they're emulating, and propagating that back to models. Research priorities, so use of multi-fidelity techniques to combine data from various sources, various modalities, and various fidelities. The design of interpretable and trustworthy surrogates. Surrogates for UQ and UQ for surrogates, meaning surrogates for UQ using surrogates of computer models to quantify their uncertainties versus UQ for the surrogates themselves. What extra uncertainties are the surrogates introducing by their use? Again, there was a lot of interesting discussion around experimental design and active learning. So the surrogates in some way can choose what data they want or subset it if it's too much data. Again, scale aware, scale bridging surrogates, and standardized benchmark data sets for testing different methods. So when is a neural network going to be better than a Gaussian process or whatever? And then long term, in the shorter term, we need to start bringing researchers from different fields together with common goals and a common language. And so this is the standard interdisciplinary challenge between science and math methods and computational methods. Improve methods for creating, aggregating, storing, and disseminating data. More consistent treatment of surrogates and uncertainties, focus on physical constraints in surrogates. Then going into the future, we need more best practices for error attribution and UQ, for whole models and individual models and hybrid models coming out. going from interpolation to extrapolation, and this is where physics might help. Synthesis, so integrating surrogates of models and data hierarchies together to say something predictive about the unified Earth system. And finally, all leading to better prediction of extreme events and evolving impacts of extreme events. Thank you.
Thank you. Great update. And I really like that last slide. That's a good way to present that. Okay, Po-Lun, I believe you are next. You're ready?
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I can see your screen.
Okay, so just a brief update on the session. We had 7 co-chairs and about 135 people participate in the session the Tuesday on November 9th, and the Google Drive path is here. We had 2 session presentations, one from Nicole Riemer, one from Philip Steele, talking about using machine learning for aerosol cloud interactions and representation of aerosol processes. We then have 11 white paper flash talks, and then we have 7 breakout sessions talking about 7 different topics. And after the session ended at 14:45, we had several other ongoing discussions between members and also updates and discussions on Google Drive. So it was fun. And I'm going to present the results we have so far, and there are still a lot of information to digest and integrate. So this is not a complete, comprehensive list. So in terms of grand challenges, the group identified 3 major grand challenges. One is the data challenge, and the second one is knowledge and understanding challenge, and third is multi-scale challenges. In terms of data challenges, we think that currently the data doesn't necessarily include all critical aerosol and cloud properties and processes. And we have data coverage challenge, both in terms of time, space, and also in terms of cloud and aerosol regimes. And the quality, uncertainty, bias, and representativeness of data from different sources are different, and they are sometimes not well categorized in those data products, and or they are in those data products and people just don't know how to use them. And the last data challenge is that for aerosol and clouds, and there are people who use measurements and use high resolution modeling, but actually they typically don't necessarily agree with each other, and they're all based on some assumptions. And so we currently don't have a ground truth or benchmark data for some of the aerosol and cloud properties. So that's another challenge. And in terms of knowledge and understanding challenges, we have statistical and nonlinear behavior, and so it renders challenges in decoupling internal variability and the true signal. And uncertainties associated with the process coupling and interactions are also a challenge there. The multi-scale challenges is very important. Aerosol and cloud processes ranges from nanometers to over 1,000 kilometers in space, and also in terms of times from sub-second to weeks. And so the community has built a model hierarchy, but the best practices of using different models at different scales and combine those informations to better predict the aerosol cloud processes and understanding them is a challenge. And the group talk about both bottom-up and top-down approach need to reconcile and form a new best practice. State of the art, currently the community has shown a lot of success in building emulators for process representations for aerosol chemistry, droplet nucleation, or the conversion, etc. And use that for understanding the system or the feature for building an emulator to not just for a process, but for a system, a cloud system or aerosol system or things like that. And use the emulator or to use machine learning techniques to build a reduced dimension model, and also use that to bridge the different resolutions doing coarse graining or produce super resolution data sets. The community also have shown success in building prototype for automated model calibration, and that includes the parametric uncertainty analysis, use that to infer the compensating errors via joint calibration and also for bias correction. And the community also started to use explainable AI or interpretable AI to open the black box of machine learning and show success in using that for feature detection and signature detection. And also use that for causal discovery and inference. And for each challenge, there's an opportunity. And so the opportunities include collect and maintain data for machine learning training and AI-assisted analytics, and for all these processes that we currently don't have a good handle in the complex model or system model or environmental system models. And there's an opportunity for us to use those data-driven approach and via the advanced AI ML techniques. And one thing that that's important is that we should adopt this edge computing concept, bringing the computation and data closer to each other so that we don't waste time in transferring data and to access data. And there's a lot of ARM data, lots of LES satellites and all other data sources in all around the places. And how do we best utilize all kinds of data for advancing the sciences opportunity there. And there are natural experiments, including volcanic eruptions and COVID, etc. And these can be used to study aerosol and cloud systems. And for model simulation ensembles, this data also is currently a resource, and how to use those resources more efficiently available to the community is also a great opportunity. And there are also forcing data for Earth system models, such as aerosol or its precursors emission files. And those are also available for people to explore. And the last one is to harmonize all data from different sources and to so that they can be used all simultaneously and through an AI ML mechanism. And so that's one big item that the group discussed. And certainly we have an opportunity to develop a new software infrastructure to seamlessly incorporate AI ML in analysis and modeling. And I think the title speaks for itself. And for observations, and so there's two items I want to mention. One is the OC experiment so that we can strategically collect data instead of repeatedly oversample the same cloud or aerosol regimes and their properties. And retrievals might take advantage of AI ML techniques because they are typically quasi-linear operators. So using machine learning approaches might be very a low-hanging fruit the group considered. And last one is the emulator development. And one thing to mention is that the group thinks there really is an opportunity to develop a new framework to not only develop an emulator, but to evaluate and verify those emulators. And the research priorities, the number one we think is data, data, and data. It's so important, we need to repeat ourselves 3 times. What is a complete data set that includes all necessary aerosol and cloud properties and processes, and also all the necessary meteorological variables that co-varying with aerosols and clouds, and we need all those data. And unfortunately, currently we don't have that, and we only have a limited amount of data for a specific time and space. And then the second one is harmonized data from different sources, from models, field data, satellites, lab measurements, and all those different data sources. And then catalog those data uncertainty and their strength and weakness. And the second priority we think is important is to improve the Earth and environmental system models, and build lots of emulators, accumulate experience, and form best practices, because there are so many different AI model architectures being developed and introduced to our community, to the Earth system science communities, and we don't know what they are good for and what they are not necessary for. The second one is to develop a framework to identify the best architecture for your data for that particular data, and with its own particular quality or properties. Develop a better emergent constraints, statistical or causal inference, to constrain your model, and robust surrogate response, probability representation of uncertainty. And next priority is improve understanding and feature signature detection, explainable AI, and causality inference and confirmation. And the last one is to identify applications and use cases for those things. And one thing that the group think is important is to make connections between science impacts and the resources being allocated with the socio-economic benefit of it. So we need to make connections with the human dimensions and not just the earth science. Last, in terms of short-term, mid-term, and longer-term goals, the short-term goals is to build cross-disciplinary teams and collaborations and train next-generation scientists, and build emulators for aerosol cloud processes and systems, apply explainable AI, feature signature detection, reduce the uncertainty in terms of aerosol cloud interactions, and quantify contributing factors. Generate a lot of data from observations, from high resolution model, from detailed physics, and those data will be available or need to be made available to the community. And connect the conventional aerosol and cloud properties with the latent parameters that's being used in the machine learning algorithm. That's also one important thing for us to open the black box and really understand what's involved and provide insights into physics. 5-year goals include data QA, curation, harmonization with uncertainty characterization, a robust framework for evaluating ML-based representation for its accuracy and its level of complexity, etc. And machine learning feature detection to discover new physics that needs to be included and considered in the future. Make ML models and architectures more interpretable, transparent, and robust. Automated model calibration, better understanding and handling of multi-scale interactions, and OCs to improve the data value and MODEX to integrate model and data. All these things are considered midterm goals. 10-year goals will certainly include develop a robust digital twins of family to solve one or multiple aerosol cloud science problems. The second one is identify, understand, and account for all aerosol and cloud processes, including the known ones and the unknown ones, and use AI/ML to reveal the unknown ones, the new ones. And not only about their individual processes, but the mechanisms and the multi-scale system behaviors. The last one is to address the uncertainty, including both parametric and structure, and also their representative uncertainties. So that's the brief summary from the aerosol and cloud session. Back to you, Nikki.
Thank you, Po-Lun. I appreciate it. If there's anyone who can do a readout for the knowledge-informed machine learning session, please raise your hand and we'll pull you over. Otherwise, we're back. We might be sort of back on time, and we will add in the readout from that session if no one raises their hand quickly to the next readout. And in that case, up next, we will take a break and then we'll go to the invited session link. Please use that link to get into those sessions. The first one will be Coastal Dynamics, Oceans and Ice, led by Matt Hoffman. And the other one is Knowledge Discovery and Statistical Learning, led by Jingwan Chen. And I think I don't see any raised hands, so please have a good break. And we'll see you all back in those invited sessions at 15 till. Thanks, everyone.